everybody. Today I'm going to talk about an experience that I encountered growing up in Tennessee. This is 1974, 1975. I had cold snap or cold freeze, or I forget what we called it back then, but it was mighty, mighty cold. And please listen, watch the duration of the video, because at the end I'm going to give a little tip about driving, and I'm going to try to implement these driving tips in my videos because they're very important and uh, might come useful to you. Okay, so back about my experience in the wintertime. This is 1974, 1975. I was probably 9 or 10 years old, um, maybe 11, long time ago. But anyway, we had a cold freeze, and my stepdad wasn't home with us because he went to Sheboygan, Wisconsin for a month for work. And the house that we lived in the holler. Let me explain what a holler was if you haven't seen any of the other videos that I posted talking about a holler. A holler is Tennessee, Kentucky, Virginia, West Virginia, and it's way in the rural parts of town. It's called a holler, and it's more like a very small valley where you have two hills that come in, and the bottom part of the hill is the holler, where you live, because you hardly ever live on the freaking side of the hill. Um, but the holler is just wide enough for a dirt road come down from the top of the hill into the holler, and then a place for your property and place for a creek or branch or stream, creek, depending on what part of the country you live in. We called it a creek. We lived in Trammell Holler, and that was Trammell Creek. And some of the hollers around there in Westmoreland, Tennessee, Macon County, was the creek was actually in front of the property, because our school bus, when we went and picked other kids up or dropped them off, some of the kids had to walk across the little raggedy ass wooden bridge to get to their front yard or the driveway. But our creek was in the back of the property, so we got off the school bus and went right down into our yard, to the house. But anyway, this particular winter, we had a 3 or 4 day cold freeze or snap or whatever, and we had a rotary phone, and we would call this dedicated phone number, to the bank. The bank had an automated answering machine, whatever, that would give the current temperature. And Mom called during this winter, during this time period in this winter, or this experience. She called several times a day, or late at night, to find out what the temperature was getting up to or getting low to. Um, and But anyway, it was like 7 or 8 degrees Fahrenheit for 3 or 4 days. School was out because the school buses couldn't get down the snow and ice covered road, gravel, dirt road, down into the holler. And a lot of the places, that the kids was living, in that country, we all went to Westside Elementary School, which is in Lafayette, Tennessee, where the bank was, to give us the current temperature. But anyway, I hated that because I loved going to school. And so anyway, back to the story about it being so cold. The house is built in late 1800s, early 1900s, and had no insulation, and we heated with the wood stove. Well, we started running out of wood. This cold snap was unexpected, and we was going through the wood quite a bit, to keep the house warm. Well, we was just about out of wood, and Mom sent my brothers Jim and I and myself out to the property, to the woods, up the hill and stuff, trying to find um, tree limbs that had fallen, and small pieces of wood that we could drag up to the house. Well, for one thing, we had to go over the creek. We had to find like stones that was up above the level of the creek, to walk on the stones to cross the creek, to drag this wood up to the house. Well, we had to break it down in pieces small enough to fit to the firewood. So burn that to stay warm. And I think that then 3 or 4 days, most of us slept in the living room because that's where the heat was. It was just too cold. I remember water on the back porch because I had to run down the creek and bring the water up to the house for drinking and bathing and stuff like that. Bathing very infrequently. We were hillbillies. Okay. I remember the water on the back porch being so cold that it froze in the jugs sitting there on the back porch, and the jugs burst because I had too much water in them. When water freezes, it expands, and well, it busted out some of the jugs. But anyway, getting back to the story, um, we was just about out of the firewood that we had saved up, and dad, my stepdad was gone, and mom sent us to the woods to try to find this uh, you know tree limbs and pieces of wood to bring back to the house. Well, we went through that. We burned that probably in a day, and um, it was it was we were getting pretty desperate because it's freezing cold out, and I don't even know how cold it was getting at night. During the day, it was 7 or 8 um, top temperature. Um, So mom had this idea that we were going to burn the kitchen cabinets. Well, we had some boxes. I think we took some summer clothes out of the boxes, and we took the dishes out of the cabinets and put them in the cardboard boxes and set them on the floor in the kitchen. And mom and I got up on the counter uh, by the sink or by the stove, and we had hammers. We was prying uh, the kitchen cabinets or cupboards off of the wall. Well, we had to take them outside, and I had to bust them up with the axe or with a hatchet or stomping on them, to break to break up the wood small enough pieces to fit into the wood stove. Well, we burned through most of all that, and then mom decided we was going to take the doors off the inside, the inside doors off the house. Well, we took them off the hinge, and I had to take them outside. Now, I only weighed like maybe 90 pounds at the most. Probably not even that, because when I joined the Navy a week after I turned 17 years old, I only weighed 129 pounds. So I doubt if I even weighed up to 90 pounds when I was, 9, 10, 11 years old. Uh, so anyway, got the wood up, broke down, chopped up and stuff to where we could burn. Well, it wasn't long before we started burning through that. Next thing come the furniture. Well, took the furniture, the living room furniture out, the couch, even the kitchen table. Now this was great. Us kids loved this kitchen table because we didn't have a regular kitchen table like you would normally see. This table was there before we moved into the house, and it was freaking great. The table was on one side, had hinges to the wall. The table had would fold up to the wall, and there was a little clasp or latch that would lock it up the wall. And the benches would also come down. So when it's time to eat, we lowered this table and the two benches. It's almost like a picnic table, but it folded up to the wall. Well, guess what? We took the hinges off that, and we burned that. We burned the couch. We burned we burned our chair. I don't even remember how many chairs we had, but it was at least one. Well, took that outside, chopped it up, and brought it inside and burned that. Well, guess what? There's a there was a little bright side to this story, because when Jim and Bill and I was out in the woods dragging up tree limbs and pieces of wood to burn, we found an old dump that maybe the people before us that was living there had used. And this is back in the day when garbage trucks was more in the city. Maybe not even the suburbs. I don't know. It was a long time ago, back in the mid '70s, early mid '70s. Um, well, everybody out in the country, they had their own family dump. They took their garbage and their trash, and they put it through out in the back of the property, and they had their own little dump. You didn't take it to a landfill, or a garbage truck didn't come pick it up. Well, I found, or my brothers and I found, a school bus seat. We hauled that up to the house, and we used that as a sofa the rest of the time that we was there living at the house. We ended up losing the house, had it foreclosed, and so we moved from there. But anyway, remember riding the school bus? Remember there was only two legs on the school bus seat. The end of the bus seat that was out in the aisle had legs. The inside of the school bus, at least when I was on the riding school buses, the inside of the seat facing the windows or up against the windows and the wall of the school bus, it was sitting on a heater vent. That was the support for the seat. Um, well, so we had the school bus seat that we used as our living room sofa, and us kids normally sat on the floor anyway. That'll be in another video. But anyway, well, guess what? We about burned up all the furniture. Now it was really getting to be desperate times, and Mom gave us all butter knives, and we each stood at different walls in the house, and we started scraping wallpaper off the walls to burn. And what our plan was to get big clumps of wallpaper. Now, luckily, because this house was so old, I think there was 9 layers of wallpaper stacked right on top of the other. And we tried to get big pieces of wallpaper to burn because it burned longer. The little bitty pieces, if we got a piece too small, that burned fast and it burned hot. But anyway, so next thing you know, we didn't have any wallpaper in the house. You would look at bare walls, bare horizontal pieces of wood slats. That was you could see the mortar in between the wood slats. That was all. That was all that was left of the walls. But luckily, that cold front broke and started warming up, and the snow and the ice melted off the road getting down in Trammell Holler. And I don't remember what neighbor it was, but somebody brought us some firewood, and we was able to survive that winter. But that's just the experience that I want to share with you about how hillbillies, made it through them cold winters. Now to my story about just a driving tip. Everybody knows that when you drive, your hand's supposed to be on the 10 o'clock and the 2 o'clock position of the steering wheel, maybe 9 and 3, depending on how you was told. But there are very few people I've talked to that even know why you had your hands in that position. And even student driver instructors in driver's ed in school, those instructors, I see them when I drop kids off at school, doing Uber and Lyft. I'll see a couple cars out front, the student driver or driver's education, marked on the side, and I'll see the driving instructors, standing out by the car, and I'll stop and I'll ask them. I say, "Hey, let me ask you something. When y'all train these students how to drive, when you teach them, how to drive, do you teach them about proper hand placement on the steering wheel and the purpose of it?" And they all say, "Oh yeah, we teach them 10 and 2. Yeah, that's part of the test. When they're graded at the in the written test, hand placement is part of the test." I said, "Well, do you teach them why you have your hands at the 10 and 2 position, or the 10 and 3, or the 9 and 3?" And they said, "Well, you're supposed to. That's what the rule is." But no one has been able to tell me why. But I know why, because I was a driving instructor. As a basic instructor, sometimes I would go to a police academy and for a week, and I would be a guest instructor, and I could instruct anything. If I could make my own lesson plan. It's called basic instructor certification. But anyway, I hate to be rambling on, but you know why your hands are at the 10-2 position or the 9 and 3? It's because of airbags. Check this out. When you're driving your car, especially you young guys that might be watching and you want to be cool for the girls and you be leaning over with your hand on the steering wheel, top of the steering wheel, and you're looking around to see who, what girls checking you out, checking your wheels, checking your rims. They don't care about how cool you are. Well, I don't know. Maybe they do. I'm old as hell. I'm 60 years old. So I was never cool. Maybe that's why I'm still single. I don't know. I never tried to be cool. At least not that I can think of. But anyway, that hand is supposed to be at the 10 and 2 or the 9 and 3. You see how my hands are? The steering wheel in the front? Well, guess what? If you have your hand like this, your arm is in between the airbag in your face. When that airbag deploys, it's about 90 miles an hour, the speed that it's deploying. It's going to knock your hand, it's going to break your wrist, break your arm, and break the eye sockets in your nose and some teeth, your gums, and maybe part of your jaw, because that's a lot of pressure, that airbag. And if you trying to be cool or even not paying attention, guess what? Maybe on your cell phones, checking your emails and checking your text messages and your Facebook. Maybe I missed that memo that says, when you come out, that's the best time to check your Instagram and your Facebook and all this other Snapchat and all this stuff is when you're driving to work or driving to freaking school, driving wherever, driving to the mall. Maybe that's, maybe they tell you that's the time you're supposed to be checking all this stuff out, but it's not. You're supposed to be driving with your hands on the 10 and 2 or 9 and 3. That's a safety thing so that you don't break your face and break your arm if that airbag deploys, because you're not paying attention and you're rearing into somebody, or somebody coming, somebody else not paying attention. I hate to get on a dang on a soapbox about that, but it is what it is. Hopefully you can use that information, and stay tuned because I'll have another video here in a few days. All right, y'all take care.